Recording hasn't been in progress, bro. Thanks for doing this, man. This is pretty cool. I haven't talked in a while. I haven't really talked in a while. Never talked like this. Ladies and gentlemen, I have for you a very special treat. This is my man. This is the dude that actually helped me get into comedy in 2001. Wow, bro.
Sorry about that, everybody. I apologize for
Thanks.
my mistake.
Yes, your error. And shit, man. It's like Dave Odd of Dope Entertainment, Dave Odd of Odd Produce. He went from being a comedian, a very successful comedian, a producer of many shows. If you heard the name Pete Holmes, Kumail Nanjiani, T.J. Miller, Hannibal Buress, these are some guys that have performed at his shows before they got really, really, really big. And I was around to see them. That's how I know they were there. And I'm like, Dave, do we really sometimes feel like just killing ourselves after seeing them doing what they're doing? I mean, do we really? I mean, I sometimes just want to go.
No, for me, even though like there's like some of those guys that have bad blood with me or whatever. I don't like when I see people succeed, especially when it's guys like that. I don't have any animosity or jealousy because, I mean, the first time you saw Pete or Kumail, you're like, yeah, these fuckers are going to be famous because they're funny as shit and they just started and they're only going to get better. Like there's I was like, there's people I've seen get successful that were just like shitty or assholes that you're kind of like, what the fuck is up with that? Like, but generally speaking, like if I see people that are genuinely talented make it, I respect that. And I'm like, that's awesome. I'm happy for them. I'm not one of those people that's like jealous or petty about it, you know? Like one of the things, like, did you ever work with Nate Bargatze when you were in Chicago?
I've worked around Nate Bargatze. I was there when he was there at the fucking Lions Den and when he was in his long ass lines. I saw him, but we never actually worked together.
Okay, because he did a bunch of my rooms. Not like he was just kind of like one of those guys that would like cycle in and out of the open mics, and you'd see him around and stuff. And he would sign up for my shows every now and then. But of like all the people out of that scene, I never in a million years would have guessed that would be the guy that to blow up as big as he is. He was the #1 comedian in America in 2024. He sold $82 million in tickets.
That dude is rolling and doing it in comedy, and he built it up at your freaking shows, man. And that's actually
well, I mean, he was doing a lot of shows, and he came through Jim Roth's comedy college thing, which I don't necessarily think helped him and in any major way or anything. But the thing is that like even with Nate, like I never disliked Nate. I never thought he was a bad guy or anything like that. But I was never like, yeah, he wasn't bad. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't unfunny. But it just seemed like if you would have asked me like, hey, what's your favorite Nate Bargatze joke? I would have been like, oh, like he just kind of like meshes together with every other comedian of that time, right? Like he was just another white guy comedian. That was like, there was nothing spectacular or groundbreaking about him. He was affable and he was like, a decent looking dude. And he kind of had like that Southern charm about him, but he seemed very kind of basic, Very and to see him blow up like he has, like just being himself is kind of amazing. Like, because even watching him today, like I can watch and listen to his comedy and enjoy it and not have a problem with it. But still, I'm just kind of like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand why this of all, like, I don't know if it's just like kind of the everyman charm of him or what, but it's kind of baffling to me that somebody as kind of, I don't want to say like basic, but I mean, you kind of know what I mean.
I kind of know what you mean.
He has this way of taking like that southern style of comedy that kind of like appeals to sort of like the mid and lowest common denominator, kind of like the Jeff Foxworthy,
I was gonna say Jeff Foxworthy, Liberty Cable guy, those guys. Yes,
right.
Ron White.
He's not as lowbrow as cable guy, and he's not as highbrow as Ron White, but he's like this perfect middle of like he's like relatable to people that live in the South, people that live in the Midwest, people that live, in the middle of the country anywhere, because
Right.
he's just got that charm about him, that like every man, like boy next door sort of thing. And I feel like he's not offensive. He doesn't swear, but he's not like his comedy isn't like punching down. A lot of like Southern comedy, like is like it's like mean to people. It's just mean for no reason.
Yes, I
Like I
hate
think
that.
the reason why he's so successful is because he's able to kind of hit that Southern charm comedy that appeals to both liberals and MAGA types, like on extreme sides of the aisle,
Like
without
Michael
punching
Jordan.
down, without like, yeah. And it's like it would be really easy for him to just like rip on trans people or talk about immigrants or whatever, but he doesn't do that. And I think that's what's so magical about what he's figured out, is he's figured out a way to take this kind of Southern um, sort of redneck comedy and make it mainstream in a way that is affable and respectful to everyone. And
Uh-huh.
it's kind of amazing how he was able to like boil that down to its like essential elements and like really capture that audience.
Uh-huh.
So I give him huge kudos for that.
Absolutely huge kudos. I want to bump in and say we're this is basically going to be called "What the Fuck" with Kelly Lee. I'm calling it a WTF with Kelly Lee. What the fuck? Because you know what? I'm tired of trying to figure out names, and right now this is a what the fuck time. We are in what the fuck times right now. Me and you, David. Holy shit, bro! Did we kind of
Dude, like, and that's the thing, is like I'm a white presenting straight male, and I I'll definitely be affected by all this shit, but I'll probably be one of the last ones to be affected by it. I am of Jewish heritage, so that's definitely a concern. But yeah, every fucking
sorry, I didn't
morning
mean
I
I
wake
did not
up
laugh
and I'm
at that.
just like, what crap hell am I gonna have to deal with today?
Right.
Um,
It yes, the sleep thing. We were talking about. Oh, you were talking about favorite jokes. I don't have a favorite Nate Bargatze joke. I don't. I do have a favorite Jay Harris joke. Remember Jay Harris?
yes, I actually just saw him in a comment section like a little like a couple hours ago, and I was like, oh hey, there's Jay.
Oh,
Haven't
right
heard
on.
from him in a while.
I know, right? And Jay, he was so it was so bland sometimes, but there was just one joke, the one that ends with, "Do you want my biscuit?" I mean, every
Yeah,
time I heard that joke, I laughed my ass off. That was my shit. That was my Jay Harris joke. And yours, your joke, the one I posted that I tagged you on like a week ago. You can't change the way a person thinks through violence, but you can change the way he walks. And that's a really good freaking joke
I
for today.
remember. I remember those roasts. Remember the roasts we used to do? Like, did you
Yes.
ever participate in the roasts I did at the club? I don't remember whose roast it was, but I remember Mike Wiley wrapping up his set and just pulling a bunch of silverware out of his pocket and throwing it on the floor and walking off stage.
Oh, fucking Mike Wiley, man. I mean, how many of
Which, if
you?
you don't know, Jay Harris had a joke about throwing his silverware on the floor and saying, "I'm done."
I'm done. That one too. That
Hence
was
the
his
joke.
headliner at the Lions Den. 30 comics, 30 comics in that place waiting to go up. It was amazing. That was an
Did I
amazing time.
ever? Did I ever tell you of the? Did I ever tell you the night that I opened for Mitch Hedberg at Zany's in Rosemont? Or no,
You
not in
did.
Rosemont. Zany's in Mount Prospect
You
in
did
Vernon
not.
Hills.
You did
Zany's in
not.
Vernon Hills,
No.
2005. 2005, March 4th and 5th of 2005. I was hosting for Zany's for like that whole month, and Mitch Hedberg was one of the headliners. So it was Mitch Hedberg, and Randy Kagan, who did like a couple of like punked episodes and
I
some
remember
other like
Kagan.
MTV sort of stuff, kind of a mediocre comedian, and then me hosting,
Nice.
and it was a big deal at the time because Mitch was like one of those like living legends, right? And So I did the Saturday night and the Sunday night. And on Sunday night, I guess Mitch had done Zanies in Chicago on like Thursday or Friday night, and Jay Harris and Hannibal had come to like watch, and he said, "Oh, if you come out to Vernon Hills, you can open for me on Sunday night." So it was Jay Harris and Hannibal, and this was like before Hannibal like got good. It was like when Hannibal was still like the Black Jay Harris.
Right.
Hannibal had that phase where he like, and I know he hates when people talk about it, but I mean, he was like, and it wasn't even his material. There was something about his stage presence that wasn't clicking with the audience.
Right.
And yeah, he was just like, people didn't like him. And then one day he just figured it out, doing the same exact material and killing every time. Him and Jay Harris,
the Bill Cosby stuff, that's what got him. The Bill Cosby got him over the hump. You rape women, Bill Cosby. Yeah. That's what got him over the. That's what got him over the hump. That's what got him in the mainstream.
Well, that's what kind of made him famous. But he had figured it out he had figured out comedy way before then.
Right, and he was ready for it.
Because that was like what?
Went boom, and it was awesome. Did I tell you my Hannibal Buress story? I opened for him. And
here, hold on. Before we get off track, let me finish the Hedberg story.
Okay.
So after the show on Sunday night, Zanies in Vernon Hills, Illinois. So Jay Harris and Hannibal went up to do their 5-minute sets.
Right.
I don't remember how well they did or whatever, but after the show, we found ourselves going back to Hedberg's room at his hotel with his wife or girlfriend. I can't remember if Lynn was his wife or his girlfriend at the time, but Lynn Shawcroft, which it was either his wife or girlfriend or fiance, something like that. And I remember Hedberg Lynn handing me a $50 bill to thank me for opening for him for the weekend. And I think they gave Jay and Hannibal some money too, even though they were just doing guest sets. And we were hanging out in their hotel room, and they start smoking hash that they had gotten from one of the like guys that worked at Zanies. And me being a sober square and knowing that Mitch had just gotten out of rehab for heroin, and he almost lost his leg because he had like some collapsed vein in his leg or something, and he almost lost his leg. And so I left because I wasn't comfortable breathing that in, and I wasn't like, I was like, I don't really want to be around this vibe. And like, I know it's just weed, but at the same time, it's like the guy just got out of rehab, and I don't want to really participate in this. So I left, and Jay and Hannibal wound up going out to Denny's with him later on at night, and they were like hanging out till like 2 or 3 in the morning or whatever. Right. And then it was, I think it was March 27th or 28th is when he died. 3 weeks later after that
3 weeks
weekend
later?
With him.
He died 3 weeks later? Holy
it was like literally 3 weeks. Literally 3 weeks. And I remember getting on the Chicago board. I remember getting into it with Hannibal because I was like, I didn't want to be around a guy that had just gotten out of rehab and was already smoking weed and stuff again. And Hannibal's like, he's a grown ass man. He can do what he wants. And I'm like, yeah, but like you wouldn't sit down to a beer with a guy that just got out of AA either, like just like you're trying to, you should be trying to help these people, not enable their behavior,
Both of you have a point. Both of you have a point. You have a point because he just got out of rehab and he should not be doing anything. And Hannibal has a point that he is a grown-ass man. And then if he wanted to, he, David, like you, could have walked away. He could have walked away. He didn't have to do any of that. He could have walked away. He chose to do that. And I'm a big difference with you. Hash is not weed. Hash is 10 times stronger. That's a pretty cat. What's the cat's name?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Cold
This
Nine?
is Metzi.
Metzi?
She's my grumpy old grandma cat.
Oh, right on.
Metzi.
Hi, Metzi.
I found her outside of a grocery store in 2014 on my birthday. And I'm like, well, if you find a cat on your birthday, it has to be yours.
Yes, you got to keep the cat. But 2014, you've had it for 10 years?
I went through hell and high water. I
Did
went
you?
through hell and high water to get this cat. I was delivering produce to restaurants at the time, and I found this cat in the morning when I was supposed to go do get my stuff together for deliveries. I dedicated my entire day to like finding a place that I could. I had a cat at home, and I wanted to keep her, but I didn't want to bring home an alley cat, not knowing if she had diseases and stuff. So I
Right.
wanted to bring her to a shelter that could like deworm her and like get her all cleaned up and everything, and then I would adopt her from the shelter. But the only place in the city that would let you kind of track the animal that you dropped off was animal control. I tried to take her to the Humane Society, and they're
It,
like, "Well, if you're just surrendering her to us, so you're not going to be able to like figure out where she went or anything." So I had to bring her to animal control, and animal control like gave me a tracking number for her, so I was able to periodically call and see how she's doing. She got dewormed and she got spayed and this, that, and the other thing.
yeah.
And it was like 3 or 4 weeks later, I called Care Animal Shelter, and they went and picked her up from animal control and then adopted her out to me.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and then early last year, I had like a friend that was crashing at my place that had like basically had a falling out with her family, and she
Right.
called me up one day and she's like, "Hey, can I stay at your place for a few days?" Right? And I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool." And that few days turned into weeks, and then that turned into months, which turned into like 16 months, 15 months.
Damn.
And the whole time she was like plotting against me because we had dated like very briefly for a couple of months and it didn't work out.
Plotting
And
against. Why was she
so
plotting against?
because she was mad that I didn't want to date her, I guess, or whatever. And then she was living with me on top of me in my like literal like 1 bedroom place. There's nowhere for like there's no separate rooms. I live in a converted garage basically.
Right.
And so she was blowing up on me all the time, and I'm like, "Listen, you don't have to live here. I don't want you living here. Like I never invited you to live here."
Right.
But when I was away on a trip, she like she like flipped out and left and took both of my cats with her.
Oh,
And I had to go through 6 months of court shit trying to get my cats back, and I
I
finally
remember that.
did. It cost me like 3 grand.
I remember that. I remember you were going through that.
It was fucking yeah,
Holy,
it was not fun. So,
holy
but I
shit.
got my cats back. What are you making there?
Oh, by the way, you're watching
What do you got going on?
Talk with Kelly Lee. My guest, Dave Odd. He's the man that actually got me started in comedy, and you got me started in something else too. I'm about to go into that, but I'm making beef stew over here, and I'm making chicken and dumplings over here in the crock pot.
Nice.
Yeah, this stuff here, man.
Are you practicing to be a grandmother?
I'm already a grandmother. I got 4 grandkids. I'm already there,
Hey,
man.
you should do? You should do like kind of a Tyler Perry, like you should do a Tyler Perry Medea cooking show type thing. You dress up like a woman, an old
David,
grandmother woman, and like
David,
do
I will
sassy,
not wear the
sassy
dress.
black lady cooking.
I will not wear the dress, David. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to wear the dress. I'm not doing it. No,
Well, actually, you can keep
I take it
calling.
back.
You
I'm not going to
can
wear the
keep
dress.
calling the. You can keep calling the audience. You can call the audience "sweetie, honey, baby child."
No, I've actually thought about that. I actually thought about that, but you know what? It would be too easy. I'd be great at it. I'd be great at it, and I'd make money at it, and then that's all that I would be doing, and that's all that they would be wanting me to do. Put on a fucking
You know,
no.
I will say if an old overweight black woman calls me "sweetie, honey, baby child," it like carries me through the next 6 months.
Yeah, actually, that is a thing. If a black woman just out and like, hey, sweetie, honey, hey, baby, yeah, it does carry you because like you do get that childlike feeling when you get that unless that's the person that whooped your ass for 20 years. But then you wouldn't get that feeling. You'd get more of a sense of,
Hmm.
oh shit, here comes the belt. But for you, Mr. White Presenter, you're going to get that, sweetie, honey, baby. It's like an SS. It's like an SS agent saying "bitcha bitcha" to one of the Jews in the camps. But I digress. It can be it can mean good things for the right people.
The other day, I was driving around with my friend, and we were out in the middle of the country, middle of nowhere, and there's this old lady walking down the street with her like walker cane thing, And she kind of flags us down, and we pull over, and we're like, "Are you okay?" And she's like out of breath, and she was like, "Ah, my husband and I was trying to go over there, and uh and she couldn't talk, and like she couldn't really explain what she was trying to. I don't know if she was trying to go to the store or whatever, but she lived around the corner, was able to get her in the car, bring her back to her house, and she couldn't figure out how to use her phone. Her phone was in airplane mode, so she like
Oh,
I guess for days she was trying to like call help or whatever, and so we had to call the paramedics. She basically told me that her husband died and her son died, and I was like looking at her phone calls or recent calls, and I'm like, "Who's this?" And she's like, "That's my son who passed." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like so this like in the call said like Wednesday, like
oh
2 days earlier. So I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like, did your son just die? Like, what's going on? So basically, what I thought was that her husband and son had died in a car accident like a couple days before, and she was completely lost without them and didn't like drive or anything. Didn't know any of the neighbors or whatever. So called the paramedics. My friend stayed there with her. I went to go drive around and talk to some of the neighbors and see if they knew anything or if they could help her or whatever. And apparently she had dementia. I guess her husband was dead, but her son wasn't. And
oh.
I guess it was a stepson. I heard the paramedic call the stepson and be like, "Hey, your stepmom is here and she's like confused and she doesn't know where she is. She was wandering around." And he's like, "Whatever." Like real
Oh, wow.
stepson energy, like
Wow.
real just shitty. So they took her to the hospital, and like I don't know what happened after that. I gave the paramedics my number and told them to call me and let me know. But obviously, there's not really much information they can give me. So I don't know.
Applause
I
to
hope
you,
she's
sir.
all right. I hope she's doing
Applause to
okay.
you, sir. Good job.
But
That's a great job. That's a good
we
Samaritan.
drove by her house because it's right. We drove by her house a little while ago to see if there was any like tire tracks or anything. But no, it was just so I think she's still in the hospital.
Damn.
But
Well,
hopefully
Dave,
she's okay.
I'm glad you were there for that person, and seriously, glad you were there for me too, bro. You actually tightened my comedy game up a lot. I did not know what the hell was going on. You got me around a lot of people that I wouldn't have known if I didn't know you. So, I mean, I watched Kumail Nanjiani star in the Eternals, King Mingo and shit. Watched Pete Holmes doing his Batman thing on
Oh
Instagram.
wait, hold that thought. Hold that thought.
Stir the stew for me. Ha! That's
I
awesome.
have my Kumail Nanjiani action.
I was thinking
I
about
have the Funko Pop.
I was thinking about getting one myself, but then I'd be like, you know what? That's just too cheesy. I'm cheesy, but I'm not that cheesy. But that's cool.
I so I started decorating my place with like action figures and like all kinds of like kitschy kind of Gen Xy sort of stuff. And
Right?
I got into collectibles, just decorating my place, and then I started like reselling them during the pandemic.
Right on.
Um, so I was thinking like, man, if I was still a comedian right now, and whenever I worked with like if I worked with like Bill Burr or something, I would go buy every action figure I could find of that comedian and bring a fucking garbage bag full of this shit to the show in the green room and be like, "Hey man, like I'm a middle comedian, like I'm opening for you. I make $500 for the weekend. Same shit we've been making for 25 years. Can you sign a bunch of shit for me? Because I can sell this shit and make a decent chunk of change." And they'd be like, and Bill Burr would be like, "Fuck yeah, man. Come on, give me that shit. Yeah. Fucking sell it for all you want."
Yeah,
You
actually, he
know?
would. Bill Burr would do that shit. That's actually pretty smart, brother.
He's got Star Wars action figures, and they go for like because I saw Mike Stanley was opening for him, and I was like, "Shit, man, you should go get some action figures and have him sign them." Um, and like they sell for like 150, $200 on eBay. So
Right on. This is cool, man. Dave,
yeah,
wow. It's been a minute, and seeing you brings back so many memories, good memories, and crazy memories. Really fucking nutty memories. Holy shit. I all my wives are gone, but you're still around, so I appreciate that.
well, I'm sorry, that I'm not a fat white lady, but if I was, I probably wouldn't be talking to you anymore.
No, you probably would. You find a way to leave me alone. But brother, this is something I would like to talk about comics. Like let's do this like once a week, bro, because there is so much going on in comedy that just makes no sense to me. It's like this whole scene is garbage, kid. The whole scene from California to New Jersey, it's just all garbage. I'm not really feeling it. Are you feeling it? I mean, are you
I
really
mean, I'm 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 so behind on comedy. Like I got a new car recently, so it came with the trial XM radio,
right
so I'm
on?
able to listen to stand up comedy, like like whatever, and it's fine. And I see a lot of comedy clips on Facebook and stuff. I haven't actively gone to a comedy show in like forever, but I feel like comedy has changed so much just because everything's so hypersensitive now. Like because so much of the material that I would do back in the day was like that kind of Jeselnik Tosh sort of shock value stuff where I was being like by saying like racist or bigoted shit, but like in a tongue in cheek making fun of the racist bigot sort of way
We
that
can
could be
still do that.
construed as like rude
No,
or
Jeselnik can still be Jeselnik. It's the fucking Tony Snows that are the fucking problem. These guys that just take shit and they're
well,
just
right.
insulting people.
Yeah,
They're not even joking.
Jeselnik and Tosh can be. This is one of the things I would always tell my comedy students is like Jeselnik and Tosh can be Jeselnik or Tosh because people know them and they have their fan base. But you can't be Jeselnik out of the gate when nobody knows who the fuck you are. Like,
Right,
what's with this asshole?
right.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to freaking maneuver into the asshole. You can't go asshole right out the gate. Yeah, you can't go full return.
Yeah, and like even when I was doing like a kind of rude comedy or like pushing the envelope type of stuff, I was never really punching down. I like that was one of my things is like I did have like a lot of material about homeless people, um, but it was more kind of like exploring the idea of like some of the like when the really aggressive homeless guy comes up to you and they're like, hey man, I just got out of jail, and I'm not trying to be out here hurting anyone, I just need $1, and you're like, okay, I'll give you $1 so you don't hurt me, sir, like because that's kind of what they're saying. And I'm like,
Right.
well, now if that's your sales tactic, why can't you get a real job? Like if you knock on somebody's door and be like, hey man, I just got out of jail, I'm just trying to sell some motherfucking vacuum cleaners, I know where you live, you want to buy a vacuum cleaner? Well, now that you mention it, I really could use several vacuum cleaners. Um, because like that's you want
That's
to buy a
awesome.
used car, motherfucker? Like, you know what I think I do because I don't want to get stabbed. So,
That is
so like
true.
I would do stuff like that, but it was never really like I wasn't making fun of homeless people. I was just making fun of that one particular archetype of like aggressive kind of scammer guy. Um
Absolutely. And
and
speaking of aggressive scammer comedians,
yeah.
you should come out here for a weekend and we should go see a bunch of shows. And I want you and I to get a fair idea of what comedy's like in Vegas and talk about it. Because, hey, like you say, you rub people the wrong way, David. I've rubbed pretty much every comic the wrong way here in Las Vegas. They don't talk to me. And I don't really care because a lot of them aren't very funny. And I'm okay with that. And I'm like, I'm gonna build this shit myself. So I'm doing a month one. I'm doing a monthly show, a monthly Saturday, a first Saturday show, just a 2 hour thing. And I put myself and a couple of comics and my son. My son is a hell of a rapper. He's my musical guest. I'm putting like my personal Saturday Night Live shit together once a month, and I feel like that's what I should be doing because somebody should be doing it and doing it right. So that I mean, and I'm going back and forth at it because I got the fucking ADHD and the shit. I didn't know how bad it was until I figured out until I got actually diagnosed. Yeah, good. And I'm diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, and anxiety. And now they're paying me for it because they know they fucked me up. And now I can do this and actually bankroll some things. So now I'm gonna do that. So you need to get your ass to Vegas. Come help me do this shit again. I need your help. You don't have to get on stage. Just
Ah,
help me produce it. Help me produce the show. I need production help. You're one of the best producers I know. So I need you to come help with that. And you don't need the answer now, but we're running out of time. I didn't
I
know if you
have
should,
like
huh?
I have enough on my plate trying to run my events and stuff because almost every single weekend from April through October I have two or three events every weekend, sometimes 4 events or 6 events, and then a few things scattered throughout the week. But generally speaking, every weekend I have something going
Well, let
on.
me come up and be
Um,
a part of the shit
and
that you're
if
doing. I could come up there to you.
you know about edible wild plants and mushrooms,
I can learn about edible wild plants. I'm smart.
you can sing Black Betty for people.
Whoa, Black Betty, lamb, lamb. I'm
I,
still.
I swear to God, I cannot listen to that song anymore. Anytime it comes on like Spotify or whatever, I'm like, we're gonna skip that one. I don't need to hear that for the 9,000th time.
Yeah.
It's like when you hear like Under the Bridge or like Smells Like Teen Spirit, and you're like, I heard this enough for a lifetime in 1991. Thank you very much.
They, they do play it a lot.
Or Hey Ya. It's like, all right, enough of Hey Ya. I got all the Hey Ya's I could get in 2006 or whenever that was.
And speaking of Hey Yas, man,
You remember that summer? You remember that
which summer?
the Hey Ya summer where like
Yes.
just as you stopped hearing it come out of like you'd hear Hey Ya like coming out of a speaker in a store, and then just as you got out of earshot of that, you'd hear it coming out of a car driving by, and then when that car drove away, you would hear it coming from a somebody doing a saxophone cover of it on the corner. It was just like you couldn't not hear that song
Yeah. Yes.
for like
Actually, understand that.
18 months straight.
All right. Hey, man, we're gonna wrap this up because I gotta stop this before we run out of time, or we're gonna go into like a Sopranos version where it just runs out of fucking time. We don't know nobody's gonna end. But David, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me on my first What the Fuck with Kelly Lee. Appreciate you talking about the comics. Appreciate you talking about everything with me. We're gonna do this again in a week, and hopefully I get up there and learn some odd produce. Tell them about tell them about you what you do now. What do you do?
I teach people about edible wild plants and mushrooms, and I do stuff all over the Chicagoland area. If that's something you're interested in, you can go to eattheneighborhood.com or oddproduce.com. It's the same website. But yeah, essentially, I just we meet in some place and walk around, and I'll show you at least 50 different edible or medicinal wild plants and mushrooms right in your own backyard and tell you how to use them and what you can do with them. And I always say I never expect anyone to remember 50 different edible wild plants, but if you can remember 5 or 10 of those things, that could seriously be the difference between life or death in a survival situation, which we're all definitely going to be in very soon. So,
Exactly. But
if you don't learn it from me, go learn it from somebody because
yes, learn it from
you
Odd
need to
Produce.
know that shit.
And I need everybody to come out to my show. This show, March 1st. It is Old School, New Cool at the Spacecraft Studios, Big 10, West Utah. I got a couple of comics from, 3 comics from LA, from NoHo. I got Tamara Mary, who hosts a show in North Hollywood. I got Dinah Lefferts. She's a SAG actress and comedian. And J.R. Redwater. He's a Navy.
I'm Facebook friends.
Huh?
I'm Facebook friends with Dinah.
Nice. So come on, see, right? Yeah, Dinah and J.R. Redwater. He's a Navy comedian and a very funny man, veteran comedian, and he's coming down to be headliner for my show. So, and my son, Psychozelic, he's a musical guest, and I'm going to do my Frank thing. That's what I was going to tell you about. I never thought about really doing Frank Sinatra songs until you started doing "Luck Be a Lady," unless she's a whore, and I was like, okay, what's this Frank Sinatra about? And I started researching Frank, and I started like, oh shit, Frank's the reason Sammy can do what he does. And then I started singing Frank's Dean and Sammy shit. And did I tell you that I actually played Sammy Davis Jr. in a show called the Rat Pack Lounge in 2020 in fucking Vegas?
I did see that. I recently started going to a karaoke night, which I haven't done karaoke in years, but I recently started going to one in Kankakee here a few weeks back, and I go every couple of weeks or whatever. My go-to karaoke song is Minnie the Moocher, the
Nice.
Blues Brothers version, because it requires audience participation.
Yes.
And it's right in my range, and I do a really good version of it.
That's that's actually a good choice. May have to do that next show. Brother, I'm going to cut this out, wrap this up. But
And I always introduce it when the music starts, and I'm like, if anyone needs to escape the police, this would be a good time to sneak out the back, and I'll expect audience participation from everybody.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Hey, brother, thank you again.
I oftentimes serenade. I, I do serenade my guests. I have like a little mobile speaker, like a little, speaker. So when my guests are like sitting outside, like around the fire, I'll just pop out the door with the speaker going and start serenading with like Summer Wind or something like that. It's always a good time.
Summer Wind is my go-to, brother. Summer Wind is my go-to. All right, brother. Thank you, brother. We're gonna talk soon, and we're gonna talk next week. And you guys, thank you for watching.
Yeah, good
and live, love, laugh, and comedy, baby.